Previously on Kingdom Krawl.
We get to Moab, everything's tidy. It's an hour and a half from Grand Junction to Moab, and we made it in that hour and a half.
So we had a whole bunch of characters just heading out to a trail for a fun, easy, well, not so easy for me.
Moist. That was the trail. Moist.
Oh. That was awesome!
We're gonna be here for like 8 more days.
And we do Rusty Nail. And Rusty Nail is one of the best trails that you can hit in Moab, but it just happened to be that we were able to cruise right through that thing, maybe 2 hours for all of us to go.
Yeah, it didn't take very long. I mean, it was pretty cool. We all hit all the hard lines and stuff, and we got up. A couple of sketchy parts and stuff. We got some really good footage, but yeah, we got through that, and we came out the end, and there were some guys with some flatties, some old wheelies, and some of the guys were just like enthralled with them at first, and went down and talked to them, and we were just hanging out.
So we ended up hanging out with those guys with flatties, but then moved down the trail before them.
Yep.
And decided we wanted to grab Golden Spike.
Let's get a few things straight here. Number one, this is a Willis MB, not a Willys. A Willis, made by the Willis Overland Company, founded by John Willis. A Willy is something the English call a And number two, if you don't think this is cool, trade in your off-road keys for a fucking Honda Civic. Troy's Jeep is pretty ridiculous. He went through this so fast, we joked and said to do it again.
Yep.
So he put it in reverse to do it again.
There you go.
All right, stop right there.
Hurry up, 'cause I think the steering wheel's gonna break.
And then Chris from iDrive was going through there complaining how he had no steering, and we're like, well, it's because you don't have hydro assist, and it's gonna force you left.
I had steering issues that we only came apparent to the point where I didn't have any steering was at the Golden Crack.
He's like, I got nothing, and he's just cranking on this thing, and he's going straight almost.
It's a CarQuest part. Got it. If we get you back to town, it's pretty fucking easy. I mean, not gonna be super easy change this time here, but it's a pretty simple change. Power steer pump.
So what are you gonna do?
A power steer pump. I think it's a pump, not the box.
Well, we got some steering issues. He can't steer at all. Two-wheel drive? No. So we're gonna jack up the front end and see if he can steer at all with the tires off the ground. He's got a pretty big engine in there, so it's real hard to get to the steering box and the steering pump. So some of us think it's the steering pump, but we're gonna see what happens when we lift it up and turn it. Other than that, we're having a great time. This is awesome. This is a great day. It's kind of cool, windy.
Having a good time, right, guys?
Once we realized the pump wasn't working, you thought or felt like he could make it back down the other side with just Poison Spider. I felt that I got in the Jeep and actually tried to steer it. The pump was gone, so it was so bad. Like usually with a manual, like you can manually steer it and get something. With his tire size, it just wasn't possible.
It's got a weird spot in it from that far right to the left, huh? And you turn back.
When you're moving, though, it doesn't do it. When
Right there.
Yep, it has a catch to it.
All right, can I get somebody got a pair of pliers?
That's how I
Yeah, I'll do in the
dealt
back.
with my.
Those big fuckers.
I'm trying to catch one
I
little
know
bit. I
you,
can't.
I know
fucking-
you are, and I'm trying
Cable's
to.
gonna be fucking hot too.
Uh,
Are you videoing again, Gabe?
Of course he is. That's what Gabe does.
are we close?
So now I can say
Don't hit
I
me in
had
the
a
fucking
really good
face,
time at
please.
Moab, and I broke down too
On the first.
Yeah.
Well,
on my
Whole
first
experience.
trail. Well, second trail.
it became
But
a
it's supposed to
saw.
hold right there.
I bet
on
it's
that
supposed to have a
ring.
keeper ring.
Right there. I bet it's supposed to have something that holds right there.
No, it's fucking burn up.
Bye-bye.
Sure. Yeah. Now we
Here
gotta
you go,
get
Chris.
that fucking pulley off there
Yeah.
too, don't we?
Nope, they come with it.
No,
Do
it
they?
doesn't.
It does?
No, it don't.
Are you sure, bro?
No
No,
way.
it
Well,
comes
we're
with
gonna
that.
take it with us and we're gonna use their rental pulley puller while we're standing there.
Yeah. Put the other one on.
Yeah, I'll take care of it.
No, we're
So here we are, stuck on the trail. The boys are going back into town to get me a spare, well, changing out the power steering pump that we just changed out on the 5.3 because I had no steering. So the guys are racing back into town to bring back spares
And food.
and food, and they've got to go through that traffic right over there. You want to show them the traffic that's over there, guys?
It's quite a bit.
Have fun with that.
And we were stuck at the gold crack, so you have to fix it to make it back over.
Yeah, there was no way.
Yeah.
So I hopped in with Troy, and Adam hopped in with you, and we decided to take two. We're gonna get some food for everybody, so we're all hungry already at this point, which was still daylight, plenty of daylight.
Yeah.
Then we were gonna run and get a pump, which obviously O'Reilly's had it in stock. We were ready to go. We were good to go. So, and one little thing which was funny was I was like, man, why don't we get a PSC pump? And he's like, no, they don't have a pump for this. And I'm like, is this a 3.8 pump for a JK? Chris was like, yeah, but they don't have a pump for it. And I was like, okay, I put a bunch on, but okay. So I'm just rolling with it at this point. We've got a pump sitting at the O'Reilly's. We're good to go. We're ready to roll down.
So that pulley, when we determined the pulley was broke, it was probably 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon at this point in time.
I think so, somewhere on there.
And so we decide that we're going to pull a pulley, and we know that we're going to have to go do a parts run And we decided that we should probably do a food and water run at the same time because all of us were up there with nothing. The clothes that we showed up to Moab in our back, we left everything in the Jeep. I mean, we left tools, food that we did have.
Well, we had taken some tools out to kind of help Chris.
Yeah, but we had
we're like
bare minimum.
I'm like, let's jam to town. Let's go get these parts. And he's like, Marvin, you ready? He's like, yeah. And we all just jump on our 2 rigs.
We tear off. I'm with Troy. We are hauling balls like
Just so that,
we're passing people. We're driving like crazy people. I'm like,
passed like 3 groups on our way. Excuse me, we were in a hurry.
Yes, we did.
We took off. Like,
so it was you and Andrew Bailey in your Jeep, and you guys were on the parts run. And then me and Marvin were in his Jeep, and we were on the food run.
So they rushed back to town to get the parts before the parts store closed. And
so we're going down Gold Bar Rim, and we're ultra foring it down Gold Bar Rim, just Ricky racing down the thing, and we're having a good time.
And so I was like, Troy, man, I was like, you're hitting hard. He's like, man, these coilovers were great. I'm like, all right, bro, whatever, you know.
You couldn't write this story, but they broke down along the way as well.
And all of a sudden, like we get about, I don't know, like a half mile further down the trail, and the Jeep starts spittering and sputtering. He looks at me, he's like, what? I'm like, what? And so Marvin and Adam were pretty far back, actually. They were kind of not being as hard on the rig. And so we pull over. I'm like, do we have fuel? He's like, maybe. And I'm like, okay. So we check it out. And we start looking and delving a little further. I'm like, maybe it's like a coil problem, a coil pack problem is why it's kind of missing. And he goes to try to start it back up, and it won't start back up.
Yeah.
all of a sudden, my Jeep just started sputtering, and I'm like hitting the gas, and it's not staying running. And then all of a sudden, it just quit.
Yeah.
And so I've got all this crap going through my head. And I'm like, what could it be? And I'm like, it can only be one thing. And I go, it's got to be the pump. And so I jump out, and I open the cap, and I pull the pump out, and it looked like spaghetti.
So at this point, we recognize there's a major issue. So he's popping the ring off of the fuel cell, and he pulls the fuel pump up, and the 2 rods that hold the pump together, he had actually had to modify for the fuel cell, which is stock JK
It was previously
fuel pump.
welded already, right?
No, he had welded. He had cut it and welded it. Yeah, it had previously been welded together. Well, the weld broke loose from all the jarring around and the banging around. So,
And I look, and there's one wire just kind of dangling there all by itself, and all the other wires are connected. I'm like, yeah, we're not going anywhere.
in turn, it had separated itself, and like all the hard parts were in the bottom of the tank. So we have no gloves, nothing.
Yeah,
We've
so
left all tools.
All the tools that were in both Jeeps, we left at the Golden Crack with Chris to make sure that he gets his stuff fixed. So
yeah, surely we're not going to break, right?
Like no screwdrivers, no basic tools, absolutely nothing.
Marvin pulls up, and we're trying to figure some stuff out, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, okay, we got one obstacle, we could winch it. I'm like, no, we can't go anywhere. Like so we give all the info to Marvin and Andrew, and they take off.
I'm like, okay, I'll hop in with Marvin. They're like, yeah, like we'll stay here. You know what parts to get? And I was like, yeah, I know what to get. We'll grab you guys some food. We'll blast back. So me and Marvin.
That was about 30, 40 minutes away from Chris. So we were not close to Chris. They could not have joined again and hung out together. So now we had 2 rigs broken down in 2 completely different locations, pretty far away from each other.
And then Marvin all of a sudden says, he's yelling out the window, hey, I'm overheating. So we stopped, and he was in fact overheating. I think he was at like 250 on his temperature gauge.
All of a sudden, my Jeep started, smoking like crazy and overheating. What's going on? Trying to find the issue, figured out, hey, it's just a blown fuse.
So we were able to really quickly figure out that his fan wasn't turning on, but it took us some time to figure out why and find out where because he's got a completely customized Jeepster sitting on a TJ frame on 42-inch tires. So it's a one-off build, 6.1 Hemi, the whole thing. So it took us a minute to figure out where his relay was and determine that his relay was good. And then we could not find the fuse for the fan. It was buried up in a
we looked in the same spot. I went through every fuse, and they were in there. I mean, it hurt to take them out, but we got them out, and they're all good. And then
we found a separate fuse that was for his
Andrew Bailey was in there, and he stuck his head in there, and he's like, well, I'm really going to look. And he got his eyes adjusted, and all of a sudden, there's an amp fuse right here. Yeah. What's this?
So we pulled a fuse from somewhere else, put it in there, drove I don't know, 5 minutes or whatever until
Maybe.
we had the fuse thing dangling down from the dashboard so you could see what's happening, and then bam.
I looked and I saw the little sparkly little arc again, so I knew it blew again. And so I'm like, keep going, dude, as long as we can.
Yeah, and then we kept going as long as we could, which was a few minutes until it started overheating again. And we let it cool down, tried to figure out a game plan. Then we were out of fuses, we were out of everything, and all I had a lighter in my pocket. So we took the little safety thing, the kit safety thing from a lighter, and put it in one of the burned up fuses, like smashed.
We hot-wired the fuse essentially.
Yeah,
we connected the arc, you know.
Made our own little fuse out of it, let the Jeep cool down a little bit, put it back in, started up, worked for approximately 30 seconds, like solid 30 seconds until everything started smoking. We're kind of screwed. We were the last man standing. It was the last rig in our group, and it's just us, and everybody else is back there. Nobody has cell phone service. Nobody has tools. And we couldn't even let Chris know, or like the first group we left behind, we couldn't even let them know that we also broke down now. So they are still assuming that we were hauling towards town getting parts, but we were not. We were dealing with our own issues.
And we're just sitting there, so I'm like, okay, we need to get high ground and I need to call somebody. So as they're going up, they get up the obstacle, and I get up to high ground and I make a phone call, and I call my buddy Sean, and I'm just like, hey man, I go, what are you doing?
Troy calls and he starts talking about all this day he's had, that Chris and Josh are up on top of the crack broke with a broken steering pump. And then he says, yeah, me and Marvin we're going down to get parts to get everything fixed. And I thought he was just telling a story. I thought he was back at the house. And all of a sudden he's like, can you come? Come where?
He's like, all right. And so he drops what he's doing and he heads out.
How far did we make it down the trail after that?
Pretty much, like, we could still see Troy, but we were far enough, like it was on the other side of the cave. It was far enough to not walk back, but we can see him in the far and like yell that, hey, Jeepster didn't look hurt. So no.
Well, at the same time, I looked over at Marvin and Andrew.
The whole time, I see Marvin and Andrew up on the ridge across from us.
And they made it past the obstacle.
The whole time. And I see Marvin, you're on the phone, and Marvin jumps out of his Jeep and you hear, from across the valley, and he slams his door.
And there's like two little rodents just running around a block of cheese. Like, what's wrong? And you could just see them scrambling everywhere. It was just so funny.
Jump in the Jeep, we're heading up, gonna meet up with Marvin and just let him know that the parts are O'Reilly's. And we're going and going and going. I've never even ran Go Bar Rim. I keep going, I get signal, I call Troy, he's like, no, they're coming. I'm like, I think we missed them. Get going, come around the corner, Marvin and Andrew are broke down too. The rescue vehicle is broke down.
And out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere, a JK comes down the trail, and of course, this dude, oh my god, like he again knew who he was.
He's like, Sean, what are you doing here? He's like, and Marvin's like, you know this guy?
Like, I don't know,
yes.
like
He's
this
like,
one dude coming on the trail.
Troy told me to come. He's like, I thought you guys would be long gone. I'm like, oh yeah, we broke too. So I hopped in with Sean. We busted you. We fired into town, right? So in
left
the process,
me behind. Left me behind by myself in the desert while they took off in the JK from Sean to get into town to get parts. And I kind of limped myself as far as I could. Every time it cooled off, I made it a few minutes of driving towards, I tried to get towards the trailhead again where a big parking lot was, where Troy had his trailer parked and whatnot. So while they were gone, I was trying to get as far as possible towards that parking spot to get at least my Jeep out of the trail.
Andrew jumps in my Jeep and Marvin's gonna limp back. So we jump in my Jeep, go back down into town, go to O'Reilly's, get the parts. We're over here, we bought a soldering kit. We're over plugged in the corner of O'Reilly's, soldering up the fuel pump for Troy's vehicle. Cause we gotta fix every vehicle all the way up the mountain. There's 3 of them miles apart.
It's gonna get dark soon and the guys are about 2 hours away. It gets really cold out here. Even though we do have jackets, it's still gonna get pretty cold. It gets down to about 8 degrees Celsius and about, 35 degrees at night. Maybe cooler. So better be prepared.
It's about 7 o'clock right now.
Yeah.
We have about
maybe an hour of sun left.
An hour of sun.
So rather than walk around in the dark, start it now.
They say Australians can start campfires with just the spirit of Steve Irwin present.
A fire's good in the wilderness. It keeps the animals away, like big bears, so they don't attack you. Because it's pretty crazy out here, out in the wilderness of Moab. Boy, crikey, did you hear that? Go Steve Irwin.
So at some point in time, we had messaged Gabe and Chris and Josh Huntley and the other guys that stayed over there with them.
Yeah.
And you're like, they started a fire. And I'm like,
they got a fire?
and it's getting dark and cold at this point in time. So I'm like, they have a fire? Like, I was like, do we have anything to start a fire? And you're like, I don't have any stones or sticks. So no.
I'm like, I don't think I have even a lighter or matches. And we're like, wait, let's go down to the Jeep. And
Yeah, so we hiked back down. We dug through everything.
Yeah,
couldn't find anything.
My tool bag, of course, that had a lighter in it was back at Chris's. And I'm like, great.
So we just got in contact with the guys. The 2 vehicles that have gone back, the 2 Jeeps, they're going back to town. One, the fuel pump sort of decided itself in the fuel tank. So he's had to stop, try and fix that. So now he's stranded. Marvin's blowing radiator fan fuses. He's on his last one, so now he's stranded. We've got a guy coming in from town. What was his name? Sean's coming in from town to grab Marvin, and the other guys go into town, go to O'Reilly's, pick up their spares, pick up our spares, fix them, and then come out to fix us. So glad we started the fire because we're going to be here for a while. Hope there's no critters out here. Anyone hear bears? We did have a few vultures circling around before, so we just sit here with hunger. That's about it. Just wait and see what happens.
We come back, like Marvin said, we encounter him at the summit. We follow him down, which is a short ride. We're like, yeah, we could always use an extra hand. So we head back up again. And by this time, the Jeep is way overloaded. It's like overheating also. And it's cold. I mean, it's like freezing cold. So we're like, what is going on here?
And we both never rid off-road on the backseat of a jacket. So we were like kind of getting like...
Well, we eat these Wendy's burgers. Like, we're so hungry, we inhaled the whole burgers. And we're basically getting sick, like seasick.
Seasick on the trail from sitting on the backseat of a JK. And like, we both are pretty tall, so we were kind of like this on the backseat.
Yes,
it
we
was
were.
not comfortable.
It was bad.
Yeah.
We've lost the sun. But we have fire.
So you got to see your first Moab sunset.
Yeah. So many firsts.
Some joke around with Dave was just like, man, when you watch like the sunset over the ocean, you know you get the green flash. Did you get a red flash here? Well, pretty sure it's 8:30, and the boys just got to O'Reilly's to grab all the parts, and they'll be back here in about 2 hours, which will be about 10:30. Sun's still just going down, and we're just kicking back here at the fire.
Andrew sent a message and he goes, we got everything to fix all you guys. We're like, oh, right, this is cool.
Yeah, Sean, Lexi, Andrew, and Marvin all just like showed up. And like I heard a door shut while I'm asleep and I like woke up. I'm like, oh shit, they're here.
They're right in front of, like next to us.
Finally find Troy, pull his fuel pump out, get everything fixed up, get the wiring all fixed.
So we get your Jeep, we get the pump in it.
I just ran to the back real quick, and I'm like,
we get the pump in it.
Popped it in, and I went up and I started it, and everybody's like, woohoo!
3 cranks fired up,
yep.
And then Lexi was like, I can't believe you guys didn't start a fire or do anything to keep warm. We're like, we don't have anything. She's like, you want a lighter? I was like, yeah, just in case.
Oh, man, we felt like douchebags then, didn't we? And then next thing you know, we're on a lighter? Sure. And then boom, boom, boom. There's 3 lighters sitting in front of us. We're like, fire.
Yeah, so we're trucking up the trail in the dark. Andrew and Marvin are slowly guiding us up. Come down off the waterfall. Come out of there. Then my Jeep starts acting up. Front diffs won't unlock.
We stop for a minute. We're like looking for the mark. We're like flashlight, phone flashlight, whatever to find the marks. And Sean, we go back to Sean, he's like, we can't move. And I'm like, what's going on now, dude? He's like, my locker's engaged in the front and it won't move.
And we start cruising down the trail. And
we were creeping because I knew that little solder on that wire wasn't going to hold long. So I'm like, we're going to creep down the trail. Like before, we were just like KOHing it like crazy.
Yeah.
And it just happened.
Now we're crawling in a completely custom built buggy on 42s.
Yeah. And it's like hanging by a piece of solder.
Yeah.
And so we get to that last wall that's at the end of the trail and we're like, oh God, this is going to be great. And we literally crawled right up it and like no problem.
Creeped up it.
Creeping up it. And then
we got up, the trail kind of goes to the right and then back to the left and up to the top of this ridge. And when we crest the ridge, we start coming down and the Jeep's just like, wow.
He's like, just hop in for a minute and just try to drive it. So I hop in, I'm like, it won't move. I'm struggling so hard. I'm trying so hard to move it. It will not move. And so come to find out, his power steering pump was kind of smoked also. It still kind of worked, but it was going out quickly.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get his front locker. We did everything we could to get it to disengagement.
We were getting in and out of signal, get in and out of service, trying to get a hold of it and let them know that we're coming, that we're, that it's going to be all right. They're not going to be up there all night long. Get up to about 1.8 miles from them because we finally got crawled up on top of the hill and got service so we could see where we were at. We make contact with those guys. We start flashing lights, everything we can.
We're yelling and we can hear you guys from like on the other side of the mountain. We're yelling back and forth. Chris thinks he hears his echo at this point, so he just keeps yelling over and over like, okay, we f***ing hear you. Please stop yelling. He's still yelling, thinking he's hearing his own echo.
So Josh and Gabe four-wheel towards us as we're four-wheeling towards them, and they find us. I've never seen anybody happier than all of us to see each other. So we get them the parts, get them the hamburgers, and they head back towards them.
We have to start easing back. It's really late by this point. Like, what, 1 or so? 2
o'clock probably.
So we're easing down. His locker unlocks. We're like, thank you, God. Thank you, God. So we're good to go. We're easing on down. I'm like, just Sean, just be really easy on this.
I could get mapped to see how far we were, and I was kind of like, we're 6 miles from the truck.
We're like 6 miles. Yeah, 6 miles.
By road.
And we knew like,
easy
all
walking.
right, we're really close to the junction. And then from there, it's basically going to be sandy road on the way out. And you were thinking like, let's hike back to the truck. We'll get the truck, drive it in, and we'll tow the Jeep out so we can at least get one of these vehicles off the trail tonight.
Yeah. Before we left, I said, hey, I'm going to leave the key in it. I'm like, nobody in their right mind could possibly steal this thing. They could hotwire all they want, and they ain't going anywhere. So keys in it.
Tow rope on the front.
I go, let's put a tow rope on the front and a shackle. And then if they come up to it, they're going to be like, dude, shit, they're ready to tow.
Never done one of these like this before.
Finally got the parts. It's about 1:30 a.m. And we're hoping to have this all done.
We're all pretty much right now.
Yeah.
We see in the darkness Troy's Jeep.
Yeah.
We're like, what in the hell's going on?
Nobody's
around. We're like,
Troy would never leave his Jeep in the middle of the trail with his key in the ignition and a tow strap up front.
Yes. Like please steal my Jeep.
Come take it. I'm over it. Like, come just take it.
So
we hooked the Jeep. We hooked Troy's Jeep buggy up to Sean's Jeep and drug it out of the trail. I was in Troy's Jeep, trying my best to steer around turns and I was with both feet on the brake pedal, trying to get it to stop and to keep some tension on the tow strap to not run into him or whatever, because I had 5% brake power, maybe. So literally with both of my feet and everything I've had, I was on the brake pedal just to keep tension on the tow strap. And then as soon as we got to the canyon part and up that mountain, that was top 5 sketchiest things I've ever done in a Jeep.
Finally, we run into Troy coming up in his truck to rescue to get his Jeep out of there, which I don't think he was going to make it up there in his truck anyway.
And we got, I don't know, halfway back to where the Jeep was probably.
Yeah, I would say about halfway.
And then We see Sean driving down the road.
Oh, we've seen the sky light up. We didn't see something. We're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, when you look at the dark and you see like the horizon, it's like there's a city over there. Well, here comes white light. We're like, what the hell is this? And I'm like, I got all the lights on my truck, and I'm like, I don't even care. And we're just driving towards it, and sure enough, we're both getting blinded, and then
we're getting blinded, and then the lights start flashing. And I'm like, dude, is that Sean? You're like, yeah, that's Sean. I'm like, man, I hope they have your Jeep behind it.
No kidding. I'm like, I hope I'm not so tired that I'm seeing things, because, man, you better be Sean.
a.m. and we're just about done. 3 a.m.
By the time we get back out, it's time to get going again.
Yeah, by the time we get to the highway, it's going to be like sunrise.
Can you see through that thing?
Yeah.
You can see us?
Yep.
It's done.
It's finished.
Let's go home.
What an epic first day. Wonder what tomorrow's going to bring.
Woohoo! It's already tomorrow.
Well, you know, the next wheeling day.
Like this show? Want more? Then head to WatchPTTV.com, the new 100% free Powertube TV streaming network. Home of the best classic and new motorsports racing and build shows on the web.